In WASHTech, an EU FP7 supported project, we developed and tested a tool, the Technology Applicability Framework, abbreviated as TAF, and a process we called Technology Introduction Process, TIP. And these two products, Taff and the Tip, can be applied for success in any given context at district or sub-district level. The main rationale for developing this tool and process is that still too often the wrong WASH technology is applied, and therefore the result is that the WASH service is not sustained. In Africa, south of the Sahara, at any moment, some 30 to 40% of the water systems do not function. And that may be a bit less in Latin America, but it may be more or less the same in parts of Asia. Result, frustration, disappointment, and the community members have to go back to square one, that is, going to their old water source with all the discomfort and the health risks. Why going for a technology, a WASH technology, that results into a unsustainable service? While using the TAF, you will find the WASH technology that would provide a sustainable service in that given context. For your information, the project consortium includes Cranfield University, IRC, International Water and Sanitation Center, Scott Foundation, WaterAid UK and its country offices in Burkina Faso, Ghana and Uganda, WSA, Water and Sanitation for Africa, in Burkina Faso, KNUST and Trent in Ghana, and that was in Uganda. Let us listen now to the presentations of Andrei Olszewski from Scott Foundation on the TAF and Benedict Tuvor from Trent on the TAF as applied to the row pump in Ghana. You as participant, you can ask clarifications during and after the presentation by typing in the questions pane box at your right-hand menu, and after the presentations you can ask the questions for discussions in the same way. And we have an hashtag WASHTech, for the ones who would like to send us a tweet or tweet amongst themselves. Andre, I've seen that you're there. Can I give you the floor to start your presentation?
Thank you, Jo. Good morning, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon. I now go and look for version. I welcome you to the presentation on the TAF, on the Technology Applicability Framework, a tool for assessing the applicability and scalability of WASH technologies. My name is Andrei Olszewski. I'm from Scott Foundation, based in Switzerland. The role of Scott within the consortium is to develop the tools like Taff and Tip. In the next 10 minutes, I would like to present what is the TAF about, what is the concept, and how to apply it, and to give a bit of an outlook. I have some technical problems. I cannot move the slides. Sorry. So, what is the TAF? The TAF is a decision support tool for assessing and monitoring the applicability and scalability of WASH technologies in a specific context. The target users of the TAF include government on national and local level, private sector, NGO, academia, and also development partners. It's designed in a stepwise and transparent process way. It allows the participatory involvement of all relevant actors. It's a facilitated tool and therefore easy to use. As Jo mentioned, the overall goal of many of our activities is to provide sustainable WASH services. So how are the technologies linked to WASH services? For sure, the technologies have to be embedded and applied in contexts, the physical context, but also in the usage context, like the market, the policies, the capacities. In between, we have different tasks, the supply chain, life cycle costs. They all influence the interaction between technologies, the context, and the WASH services. For the TAF, we have defined 5 strategic areas that are required to deliver a good tool like a TAF. For sure, it has to provide and support the provision of sustainable WASH services. It should be linked to the technology introduction process. Governance and accountability has to be strengthened by applying the tool, because very often the governance and accountability is lacking in processes of planning and monitoring. The innovation should be strengthened. Innovation here we understand as sharing of experiences on technologies, but also on introduction processes. And finally, the tool should be user-friendly. It should be efficient in its use and according to the priorities and needs of the users. The TAF is composed of 2 elements, the screening as a first element and then comprehensive assessment. As you can see, the context and the technology will be considered in different steps, and also cost models, which are about how to subsidize or not technologies and in the introduction. The second tool is the TIP, the TIP, the Technology Introduction Process Guide. This guide is based on the concept that we can describe the introduction process in 3 main phases: the invention, where you have the piloting and the launch, then a tipping point, where you have a steep uptake curve, and the third phase is the uptake in use. For each of these phases, we have developed a generic description of tasks of each of the relevant actors. So it's like a compendium of tasks for the government, for the private sector, and so on in each of the 3 phases. It's based and developed for water, sanitation, and hygiene technologies, and also applicable for different cost models. Coming back to the TAF. The TAF is based on the 6 sustainability dimensions, starting with social, economic, and environmental dimension, organizational, institutional, legal dimension, skills and know-how, and the technology itself. These 6 dimensions are now applied and linked to specific perspectives of relevant actors in the introduction process, which are, from our point of view, the user and buyer of the technology, the producer and the provider of this technology, and the regulator and the facilitator of the introduction process. By applying these 6 dimensions to these 3 perspectives, you come up with a table of 18 fields and 18 indicators, which are the TAF indicators. The process where you apply the TAF is a stepwise process, always for a specific given context. It starts with the screening. In the screening, you focus on the question, is there a need and demand for this technology in the specific context, and is it applicable at all? You can imagine that you have a suction pump, but an area where the water table is lower than 10 meters, so this pump is not applicable. The screening is about to filter out exactly these technologies that are not applicable or where there is really no need. The second step is the comprehensive assessment of the tool using the 18 indicators. You go through guiding and scoring questions, and finally you come up with a score of this technology based on the 18 indicators. You present the results, and finally you go for the interpretation and drawing up conclusions. This stepwise process includes field trips to collect data, verification, and using this data in scoring workshops. It's a participatory process, which means you have all relevant actors involved in the scoring workshop, but also in the field visit where you get data from all the relevant actors in interviews. How does the interpretation and presentation and interpretation of the data work? As I mentioned, you have this matrix of 18 indicators, and you go through the scoring questions in the group. You give scores for each of the 18 indicators, and finally you end up with a profile like this. This is the result of the scoring workshop, and this profile offers you various interpretation options. The scores are according to traffic light system. Green is a rather positive, red critical indication. Yellow means there might be a potential impact and it needs to follow up. Black is that the information is still unclear to give a score. You can draw conclusions for each of the dimensions. Here indicated for the social dimension, for example. You can focus on specific perspectives, here for the regulator, investor, and facilitator. You can also look at the entire profile, and if you compare one technology with another for the same purpose and the same context, you can start comparing technologies. You can even indicate specific indicators in these profiles to focus on specific topics like operation maintenance. Here, for example, you have green but also red dots, and the number 17 means there's a critical issue on the viable supply chain. This is the producer and the provider and the technology. So if you want to improve the situation here related to O&M, you definitely have to work on this indicator, which is red and yellow. To give a bit of an outlook, the Taff was tested in 3 countries, Burkina Faso, Ghana, and Uganda, in 3 rounds and on 13 different WASH technologies. In all 3 countries, the relevant ministries have appointed departments that should take on the Taff and Tip after the project as a host. By end of 2013, when WASHTech ends, the Taff and Tip will be available as open source. After 2013, after WASHTech, we will put up a web-based resource base which allows access to the relevant documents, which allows sharing experiences in a community of practice and some question and answer. If you have further information on the project, please visit the homepage, or if you have specific questions related to Taff and Tip, please feel free to contact me. Thank you very much for your interest.
Thank you very much, André. That was a nice and clear presentation. I would like to give the floor to any person through the questions, of course, that you can put down in your question box for any clarification that you have. Is there any clarification that you would like to have? Then you can do that right now. I'm looking at my neighbor Cor. If there are no clarifications, okay. I see that there is a question on the 18 indicators. Yeah, it may be a good idea, André, to go back to these 18 indicators and to the 6 dimensions and the 3 perspectives. I think that may help, because that's a very important element, of course, of the whole. Can you do that, André?
I hope this one is the right slide to explain. So starting from the 5 from the 5 strategic areas in terms of sustainable wash services, but also in supporting the innovation within the sector, we did a lot of research on case studies to identify which are the relevant aspects in the uptake but also in the applicability of technology. So it's not only on technologies but also on the uptake. And we identified the importance to include explicitly the relevant actors in the process of introducing and taking up technologies, which are the user and buyer of technologies, whether they buy it by themselves or they use it after subsidized purchase. It's about the view of the producer and of the provider in countries, how they are able to make a viable business out of introduction, if it's a market-based approach, for example. And it's about the view of the regulator and of the facilitator of the process. And if you interpret the 6 sustainability dimensions through the perspectives, you get 18, this field of 18 indicators. And for example, if you have number 1, which is the social dimension, and looking at the user and buyer, then it's about the acceptance of this technology in a specific context. Or if you go to number 4, the economic dimension, then it's about affordability of this technology. So there are we covered really some key topics in this 18, and we tested these 18 whether they are really relevant, also from perspective of the sectors in the 3 countries. And based on the feedback, they agreed that these 18 are comprehensive, they are comprehensive enough, but they wouldn't skip one of these 18, so we decided to stick to these 18 indicators. So far, maybe from my side.
Okay, thank you very much, André. I've seen that there are a few more questions, but I would like to take them up in the discussions because they have a wider perspective. I would like now to give the floor to Benedict, who is in Ghana, and I hope that his connection is strong enough to have the presentation both done in audio and video. Benedict, the floor is yours. By the way, if I didn't introduce myself, that's a bit strange, of course, as a chair. My name is Joost Met from the IRC, International Water and Sanitation Center, and I happen to manage this WASHTech program. Okay, then you know who is talking. And now we give the floor to Benedict. Benedict, I can see you, so I hope also you are able to show your slides. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, you, for giving me the opportunity. My presentation is going to be on the experiences we have had with the TAF, the Technology Applicability Framework in Ghana during the piloting phase. We used the tool TAF on the row pump to see how the tool works, and also to use that to find out some of the issues about row pump, which has been in the country since 2000, but still has not gone to scale. It's being used in some communities, but really has not gone to scale. The whole process started with Community Water and Sanitation Agency leading the pilot to see if that can be included as one of the technologies that we have in the country. But when the initial attempts were made, where about 100 communities in 4 regions benefited, a lot of issues were identified with it, or challenges. One of them was the quality of the rope at that time, which was always leaving particles in the water, and there were concerns as to the health implications of that. There were also issues about the outlook, the way the whole rope pump looks, aesthetics aspect, and then how the rope pump also compared with other technologies that were in Ghana at that time, including the Ghana Modified India Mark II, AfriDef, and others. So when you doing community promotion to assess their demands for particular technology, communities always go for other hand pumps other than the rope pump. So the interest of the sector to push the rope pump wane at a point. But then WaterAid, through its partners in various rural communities, realized they need to push the agenda, because these were communities with wells, and they had to always draw with the rope and the bucket, which was quite challenging. So they also worked through their partners to facilitate the introduction or the use of the rope pump. But that has really not pushed the technology to scale up to now. So we use this tool on that, and some of the findings are what I'm going to share with you in this presentation. We piloted it in two districts, the Bolgatanga municipality and the Bogo district. All of them are in the Upper East region. And then we looked at the use of the rope pump at the household level and also at the community level. The process, as Andre touched on, involved preparations that was getting our tools ready, developing field questionnaire for picking data, and then within the region we consulted with all relevant stakeholders in WASH because the process has to be participatory, and then we trained the staff on how to use the tools. We did data collection, and at that level, the district or regional level, we did a preliminary analysis of the data and validated the information that we collected at that level. This was followed by a national level workshop to score and get the responses to each of the 8 indicators in terms of how well the technology is responding to those indicators. So through the process, we came up with the profile, as you see on the left-hand side, for the rope pump. And as you can see, there are only 3 cases where everything was okay, depending on the questions that we asked under each of the indicators. One of them was the issue of affordability, and we realized that it was quite affordable, especially if you compare it with other pumps that were there. In terms of local production, we realized that it didn't have any impact, negative impact on the environment. And then skills that users needed to operate the system was not difficult to come by. But then a lot of areas we had yellow, meaning that we are not too much there. We need to do a few things to get it right. And then there are also a few reds. The red area, especially the number 1, which is about demand from the users, we realize that these days, especially at the community level, when you facilitate community to do in a demand responsive process, options that come up would not include rope pump, but they will go for a Ghana Modified India Mark II or AfriDef. So we saw that as a challenge at the moment. And then a few other challenges as we have indicated on the profile. One major one I want to mention quickly is also the fact that rope pump at this moment is not aligned with the sector guidelines, because it has not been accepted as one of the standardized technologies in Ghana. A quick walk through some of the key findings that we came out with during the process is that the whole promotion process didn't have any clear leader, because CWS started and stopped, and then WaterAid was supporting NGOs to do it, but they didn't assume the leadership role of seeing through that the technology goes to scale. Also, we realized that producers who were trained at the initial stages have taken it as their job and have done some improvements. For instance, the rope has been improved, and some other pumping mechanisms have also been improved. The summary of what we found, I mean, there were challenges with community level usage where the rope will break a lot more rapidly, but at the household level, the rope will last for a few years. So we saw it as a potential to be used at the house as a household technology more than a community level technology. We also realized that the demand for rope pump is limited, as I've mentioned, and then there are challenges when it comes to a lot of pressure, a lot of demand, people using it. We also see the need for capacity building for the local business in terms of how to do promotion and how to reach out to a lot more people. But as of now, we are saying that it should be promoted as a household technology or self-supply technology. But then we don't have any national programs or national strategy which is more focused on supporting self-supply technology. So that we also see as a major gap. So if we want to push the rope pump agenda in Ghana, we actually have to focus on it as a household technology. We need a leader who will lead or facilitate the promotion process, and this links with what Andy presented on the TIP, technology introduction process. One of the rules is that there should be a leader and there should be somebody who will be funding the process. We also need to look at the rope pumps capacity in terms of drawing water on deep wells that are deeper than 10-meter deep, because most of the wells that we visited were 10-meter deep, and in the dry season, especially in the northern Ghana, these wells dry up and then it renders the rope pump useless. So that evidence of its capacity to draw water from deep wells is also relevant. And then as a nation, we should have a national effort, a national strategy that would promote self-supply and address self-supply issues. Then we also think that still more improvement needed on the technology to make it more durable and more robust. These are the issues that I would like to share on how we have experienced the TAF in Ghana. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Benedict. That was very nice. There are no specific points for clarification, so we can go directly into the questions. There was an interesting question, and that was, can you apply the WASHTech, the Taff and the TIP, but let's say the Taff, Technology Applicability Framework, for new and existing WASH technologies? And maybe I can take that question myself. Yeah, you can apply it to both new and existing WASH technologies. The Taff should be applied for a given context. So you take a specific technology, let's say composting latrines, and to say that a composting latrine technology is applicable for the whole country, let's say Ethiopia, is a bit too much, of course, to say. So if you go to a region or a woreda, which is a district or even below woreda level, you have a more specific context, and then you can make a better judgment whether a technology, in this case the composting latrine, is a good technology. When it's completely new, you may not have data on capital cost, investment cost, or operation cost, and capital management cost, as we call it in the life cycle cost approach. But you can get that information and those data from other countries and see whether they are applicable to your district or your sub-district. When it is an existing technology in a country and you would like to test it using the Taff, whether this technology, again the composting latrine, is applicable for a specific woreda, then you can use data, particularly costing data from other areas. But, and some of you as participants like that very much, you have to involve the local people, the users, the future users, and you have to involve people from the district, from the Warada level or sub-district, you can say a county or sub-county level in some Anglophone countries, to get all the information and also to involve the private sector. Another application of the TAF is to use it for monitoring purposes, because you can see that certain technologies are picked up in a district in a certain context, while others are not taken up in a certain context. I think there is somebody who is having his microphone not off. I hear a lot of noise. Okay, let me just continue on the monitoring aspect. So you can monitor why a technology is a success or not a success, because you have those 18 indicators, and they point to you where the weak elements are and what you have to further address to make the technology and the service, of course, afterwards, to make that a success. So you can apply it in different settings prior to the introduction of a technology to see whether a certain technology would be promising to be a success in that context. But you can also find out later why is a technology a success and why is it not. Okay. There was another question, and that was on the weight of the indicators. There are 18 indicators, and do they have all the same weight, or are they weighted? I would like to give that question to André. André, can you say some wise words about that? Have the indicators all the same value, same weight, or do you give more weight to one of them? Or more of them?
Yeah, thank you. Very good question. In the current version, all indicators have the same weights. Weight 1, if you like. We started with 18 indicators having all the same weight, and finally we also, in the final version, there will be 18 indicators with the same weight. And during the application, there was not a lot of discussion on introducing weights in the 3 countries, but the system is flexible so that you can implement weights later on your own or on the sector decision. It's about who defines the weights, but you can introduce them also to do some sensitivity analysis. This is something we also thought about, but it was, and it is still, a system of 18 indicators with the same weight.
Thank you. Now that's clear. There was another question, and I like to give that to Benedict. That was, what is the reaction of the sector players, the sector stakeholders, people like government engineers, regulators? Do they appreciate this tool?
Yes, they are appreciative of the tool, and we have already received comments that this tool will be used in the processes of adopting technologies, and then also monitoring the existing technology as to how they are performing. In fact, we tested it on 6 technologies, existing technologies. One of them is the rope pump. And now we have to do a kind of a briefing note for this dissemination within the sector, so that the outcomes, the findings, will be shared widely within the sector. And this is a request that has come from the sector stakeholders. So the Taff and the Tip are really welcome within the sector, and the sector is going to make use of it. Maybe in terms of how to, specifically on rope pump, it needs some different approach altogether, but generally the tool will be used within the sector.
Okay, thank you. Benedict, the same. Can you say a few words on the hosting in the countries, in your own country, in Ghana, and in the other countries, Burkina Faso and Uganda, and particularly why those government institutions are so interested in this tool and process?
Within Ghana, or let me say within all the three countries, there have been institutions that have been identified to host the TAF. And these are institutions who already have the mandate to assess technologies or to approve technologies for use within the sector. So in Ghana, we have the Community Water and Sanitation Agency, which is responsible for water technology. Health and Sanitation Directorate, which is also
there's a problem, I think.
Technologies. And you can hear me?
Yeah, but maybe you can start again where you started with CWSA, because you were off for a few seconds.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Well, what I said was that in Ghana, we have CWSA, that is Community Water and Sanitation Agency, as the host for the TAF on water. And then we have Environmental Health and Sanitation Directorate as the host for TAF on sanitation and hygiene. These are institutions that are already mandated to do have that responsibility. So they have been elected to do that, and they have accepted that responsibility to do that. And it's because that's what they've been mandated to do. And we are sure that already they are very happy with that. Now, household water treatment and safe storage is being promoted or is being discussed, and already there have been some statements that WASHTech, the Taff and the Tip should be included in the strategy of promoting household water treatment and safe storage technologies. So there are already interesting responses from the sector.
Okay, Benedict, since you're talking, I have one more question for you, and I think it's a very important part of it, because this process seems to be driven from the top, and people may think this is a top-down process, and the community members have just to swallow whatever is being presented or coming out of this process. I think we have made it clear, and Andre has showed it very clearly that there are the three perspectives: the consumers or the users, the private sector, the manufacturers and the providers, and there is the government, the regulators. But of course, a very valid point is, how engaged are those community members? What kind of voice do they have in this entire process? Or are they just being there for the sake of having so-called community participation? Benedict, can you give, because you have done the 3 pilot rounds of testing in Ghana, can you say a few words on the involvement, the engagement of the community members in this testing?
Yeah, through the process, we, as you said, try to bring all the stakeholders on board. The information that we gather for the analysis or for answering the scoring guiding questions and the scoring question are picked directly from the communities through a very participatory approach of data collection, where we meet community leaders, we meet committees that are in charge of water and sanitation. We talk to individual users of their perception of the technology, and we give them feedback of the information that we have gathered for them to validate whether that is the case. And this is done also by working with other stakeholders at the community level who are delivering the service, NGOs, the district assembly, and other bodies that are working at the community level. So it's really a participatory process. One way that we are also ensuring that the community's view is added to the process is the Learning Alliance work, which we do also at the regional level, which brings people from the district and some community members, especially the water and sanitation management teams, to be part to also understand whatever we are doing. So we get their input into the process. So the information has to be generated from the community level, and then it comes up to the national level for the analysis. So that is how we have been involving the community in the process.
Thank you very much, Benedict. There was another very good question, and that was on this 18 tough indicators. How do you get to your final scoring? Are there questions? And I know the answer, but I would like Andre to answer this question, because you can say he is the godfather of the tough. Andre.
Thank you, Jo. I would like to share you this table here. So what you have finally is after collection of the data, after the verification of the information, you come together in a so-called scoring workshop. This means all the relevant actors, governments, private sector, the producer, the user, and also, of course, the research team. We came together for the so-called scoring workshop, and the TAF provides you with a set of questions. Each indicator has a 4 to 6 guiding questions which define the relevant aspects around this indicator. And the information to answer these guiding questions can come from any of the stakeholders. But of course, they are very much related to this very perspective of the indicator. If it's the indicator 1, the most part of the information will come from the user. So the entire group goes through all the guiding questions, and the information gathered in the field will be presented and applied to these guiding questions, and finally you come to one scoring question. And the workshop team then will discuss the answer of the scoring question and come up with a score. Of course, not always you have a consensus. So the facilitator of this process has to bring up the different issues and discuss the different opinions. And we have, in different countries, we have different ways how to deal with different scores. In Uganda, for example, it was more a numeric way to do it. In others, it was to show really the different issues. But maybe also Benedict can tell more about this, how then the group came up to one score. But after all these 3 rounds, apparently there was not too much an issue on defining a single indicator. In the methodology, it's recommended that if you have different scores and you don't get to a consensus, you should make it transparent and look at the results from one and the other side, and to see how sensitive the overall result is. This is the way we come to results for each of these 18 indicators. I hope I answered the question more or less sufficiently.
Yes, thank you, Andre. Before I give the floor to Benedict, I would like to add to this that keep your slide there, Andre, because it's a very nice slide. That for each of the indicators there is field work to be done, and the field work goes, as Andre was saying, according to the perspective. So the researchers go to the user groups and have a number of questions for each of the indicators. So for indicator 1, 4, 7 and so on, they ask the specific questions to the user group in a focal group discussion usually. And then the same researchers go to the producers, or it may be also different people, but preferably the same, so that there is a consolidated knowledge base, go to the manufacturer or the provider and have a new set of questions for indicator 2, 5, 8 and so on. And the same for the regulator, the government, which may be the district water officer. They have a separate set of questions, and all this information gathered in the field work, as we call it, but it can also be office work when you go to the regulator, is consolidated and is being presented at the workshop for scoring, where you use the scoring questions, but you make sure that all the participants have that total information, so that the users do not have only their own information, how they position themselves, but that they also have the perspectives already heard, how the manufacturer, how the regulator or the government thinks about that. So that puts everybody right in the same frame of mind. I would like to ask Benedict, because people were saying, what is now your final product then? And in the 3 countries, we have done in each country 3 testing rounds, testing 17 technologies. Benedict, can you say what is the final outcome in terms of product from these 17 technology reviews using the TAF? Benedict.
Okay, through the outcome comes from 2 aspects. One is that we have enough recommendations for the improvement on the tool that we are using. But more specific to the technology, we have recommendations for what has to be done to improve on the technology that we have worked on. And then by that process, we are also working with the sector stakeholders to make these tools, the Taff and the Tip, more country specific in the respective countries. So working with the sector to make the tool what the sector can use within the sector, or what reflects what the needs of the sector is. So it comes from these aspects: recommendations for improvement on the tool, a recommendation for improvement of the technologies that we tested the tool on, and then a process of customizing these tools to suit our national context.
Yes, that's great. So indeed, we are presently, because it's all work in progress, we are presently working on these technology recommendations, as we call it. These are 4 pages per technology, and we have 17 of them in the making. They should be available by the end of August. We are at the end of this month. We are going to discuss them in detail, and it's in the hands of WaterAid, so it's in good hands. We have a lot of confidence that they will come up with very good documents. So by the end of August. And since I'm talking about production dates, you can say, people were also asking, when are these guiding questions and these scoring questions available? Because we have 2 sets actually. We have a set of scoring and guiding questions for water. We call it also Taff on water. And we have a set for sanitation. And these also should be available around the end of August this year, of course. So they're all available from the website for the time being that the project is running, and that's until the end of the year. And after that, they will be available on the RWSN website, particularly when it concerns water, and on the Susanna Sustainable Sanitation Alliance website when it concerns sanitation. But also, of course, on the SCOT, IOC, and the WaterAid and Trend and so on websites. They have all these links, and they have also the information most applicable to their own countries and for IOC, SCOT, and WaterAid for the whole world, you can say. I have one more or two more questions actually. One is around the operation and maintenance, because often the operation and maintenance is one of the problems, of course, that makes the system not functioning. How does the TAF help existing or future services using a specific technology, help them to make it sustainable? I would like to give that question to Andre. So can the TAF help to make water services sustainable, particularly by addressing the O&M, and how will you do that?
Yeah, thank you. Let me share you the screen here. So coming back again to this profile, as I mentioned, we have different options to interpret the data, and one of the examples was to pick selected indicators from the TAF profile which are linked to O&M, and I highlighted here 5 of them. Number 1 and 4 is about the willingness to invest in operation maintenance. It's about the affordability. It's about the capacity to do operation maintenance as a community, for example, and about the legal setup to do it, whether the water user committee or whatever structure is useful is possible from legal points of view. And as I mentioned, number 17, you have the question on whether the private sector is able to put up a viable supply chain. So these are here 5 indicators I've indicated, and if you have this profile and you go back to the guiding and scoring questions, you have quite a rich source of information on whether the operation maintenance aspects can be captured for this technology in this context. So if you go through the TAF, you have already a good indication where the issues are, where you can improve the setup, and if you link afterwards the TAF results with the TIP, which is the guidance for the introduction, then the indicators are linked to specific phases and tasks. So the results of the TAF will help you also in the later stages of the introduction process to consider all aspects on O&M. What I wanted to ask and to add here is, in terms of the products for the countries, based on the Taff and Tip tools, the country will produce country-specific guidelines on technology validation and introduction. So these are additional products the countries will have in their hands after the end of the project. This is currently going on this work. This is from my side.
Okay, very clear. Thank you, Andre. I have 2 more questions, and I hope you allow us to answer those as well. One is, can the TAF also be applied at the same time at various technologies? We were talking about testing a technology for its applicability in a district or a sub-district. A new technology or an existing technology in the country but not yet introduced in that district. But can you also apply it at the community or at the village level or at a multiple village level? Yes, you can. You can say, okay, we have technology A, let's say a hand pump, and you have as technology B, you have the rope pump, or you have another water supply system. You can do this stuff circle or around, 2 or 3 times, of course. I mean, it's a bit time consuming then, but you may arrive in this way at the most promising technology. Usually there are certain conditions and there are certain demands for a certain technology on the basis of which you would like to test that. People may say, we would like to have a piped water supply. So you would test that in such a case and see whether that is the most, most promising in terms of sustainability. You may put next to that most demanded from the perspective of the knowledge of the district water officer. You may put another technology and you may discuss that, and then people may not be happy on that. But the final result may be that that other technology may be much more promising towards sustainability. So then you give the community members, who have actually to decide probably, you give them information, good information, what and why it is sustainable or not sustainable, and what are the issues to be addressed. And that brings me to the final question that I have, I think, on my plate, and that is, can the TAF used as a decision tool to reject or to accept technologies? And I think that is very much in the line with what I just said, that indeed you can, using that nice scoring that Andre has been using, and also Benedict for the rope pump, you can see if there are too many red dots that you cannot take away by taking corrective actions, new measures, then you can say this is a technology that will not be giving a sustainable service under the conditions that you have at present. Things may change, of course, development may change towards a positive, good economic development, but for the present situation, it will not be a technology that is promising. And the funder may not be interested to sponsor that kind of technology. So that's very clearly a rejection. And on the other hand, an acceptance, if it is, yeah, to a large extent positive, green, and there may be still a few black spots, so that are questions to be addressed and more information to be collected, or there may even be a few red spots, but you can yeah, improve upon the conditions by the users, by the government, by the supplier, to turn the red into a green, and the same as yellow, and yellow a bit more easily than for the red areas, of course. So I think it's a very powerful tool, and particularly linked to the TIP, the technology introduction process, that we are going to address in the next seminar. It's a combination of a tool and a process that is very powerful to come to sustainable wash services. I see that we have been spending 63 minutes, and I'm being warned here by my colleagues in this room. I would like to close the webinar now, and on behalf of the project consortium partners, I would like to thank you. Thank you for your active participation. We got a lot of questions in, and I will go through the questions again, and I know who has asked them, and if you have not got the answer yet this time, we will get back to you. Please visit the website. I think the website maybe can be put on by Biko. There was a slide with thank you and the website on that. We have, as I indicated earlier, we have some major products ready in the public by August, and that's particularly the TAF and the technology recommendations, the 17 4-pagers. So that's very nice, and also the questions, some people were asking about that. So the questions on the TAF for water and the TAF for sanitation should be ready, or close to be ready, because it's quite a laborious task, I must say. And by November, the